at thericksmithshow.com. Until next time, this has been The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
AP News. Good morning, I'm Ed Donahue. Gene Hackman has died.
Let me bust one! I want to bust!
He won an Oscar playing Detective Popeye Doyle in 1971's The French Connection. Police in Santa Fe, New Mexico say Hackman, his wife Betsy Arakawa, and their dog were found dead in their home. Foul play is not suspected. Hackman won 2 Oscars. At the Golden Globe Awards in 2003, Hackman said acting was all he wanted to do.
It's a make-believe world, and as I say, it's what I wanted to do as a child, and I fulfilled a lot of my dreams.
Gene Hackman was 95. An Israeli official says the military will not withdraw from a strategic corridor in the Gaza Strip.
Israel's pullout from the so-called Philadelphia corridor was part of the ceasefire deal. Israel's refusal could spark a crisis with Hamas and key mediator Egypt at a sensitive moment for the fragile deal. The official spoke hours after Hamas released the remains of 4 hostages in exchange for the release of over 600 Palestinians held in Israeli jails, the last planned exchange of the ceasefire's first phase, which ends this weekend. I'm Karen Shabas.
Influencer brothers Andrew and Tristan Tate, who are charged with human trafficking in Romania, have left for the U.S. after a travel ban on them was lifted. Thousands of USAID workers who've been fired or placed on leave as part of the Trump administration's dismantling of the agency are being given a brief window today and tomorrow to clear out their workspaces. Also, 90% of USAID foreign aid contracts are being cut. In a recent court filing, the Pentagon says transgender troops can't serve unless they meet a war-fighting need. 3 senior Ukrainian officials tell the AP Ukraine and the U.S. have reached an agreement on a framework for a broad economic deal that would include access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals. This is AP News. The AP has learned the head of the Environmental Protection Agency has privately urged the Trump administration to reconsider a scientific finding that has long been the central basis for U.S. action against climate change. In
a report to the White House, EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin called for a rewrite of the agency's finding that determined planet-warming greenhouse gases endanger public health and welfare. That, according to 4 people briefed on the matter who spoke to the AP on condition of anonymity because the recommendation is not public. That 2009 endangerment finding under the Clean Air Act is the legal underpinning of a host of climate regulations for motor vehicles, power plants, and other pollution sources. Ben Thomas, Washington.
A private company is launching another lunar lander toward the moon. Intuitive Machines lander blasted off aboard SpaceX from Florida. It's taking a fast track to the moon with a landing next.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley. A dense fog advisory continues until 7 a.m. today. Slight chance of rain showers with fog in spots early today. Otherwise, cloudy skies expected. High temperatures reach up to 47. Winds out of the west, 10 to 20 miles per hour. Lows dip down to about 32 tonight. Partly cloudy skies. Daytime highs approaching 57 tomorrow. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently 39.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds. With that kind of money, you could go big time and skip the regular line at the airport and pay for speedy security. Imagine not having to quickly unpack and pack at the place you already came packed to. And wearing your shoes the whole time you're there? You can't put a price on that kind of luxury. Well, actually you can, and you paid for it. Switch to Progressive and you could save big time for speedy security. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states. Potential savings will vary.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Thursday morning, progressives, and welcome to the February 27th. We're almost there. You'll see what I mean in a second. 2025 edition of Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and iHeartRadio, of course. Email me at richard@WCPT820.com. Catch me on Substack. And, catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That's where you can catch the short versions and the long versions of Choose Views. Our longer interviews and some of our special broadcasts. So you can grab those there. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath. Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews. Check out, of course, our heartlandsignal.com digital signal platform. You got to check it out because, as we say, there's lots of good stuff there. Got a really, Joan's got Patty. Let me make sure I got this right. They both have great people they're going to have on their shows today, but Patty in particular has someone that you're going to want to hear in one of her interviews today, which I'll talk about in a moment. But make sure you check out all of our work over at heartlandsignal.com, and by all means, stay tuned for our WCPT progressive lineup that includes, of course, the Stephanie Miller Show, my radio sister on the West Coast, the Tom Hartman Show, professor of everything progressive, most definitely Joan and Patty. So here we go, guys. Busy day, busy morning. You guys want to stay plugged in today because we had a lot of great guests on all of our shows. And starting here this morning, we have Brian Lemek, who's the executive director of Defend the Vote. Cannot wait to talk to him because he's going to be speaking on a very, very important topic that will impact so many of us when it comes to voting. And then Elliot Richardson is a president and co-founder of Small Business Advocacy, the Small Business Advocacy Council, and he'll be with us in the 7:30 hour. So looking forward to talking with both of them, and they will be informing us on a lot of information that's relevant right now. Wow, like I said, the train's moving fast. We're going to be super busy. Yesterday, as you guys remember, we had the opportunity to talk to our good friend Kurt Mellett from Hoosier Blue 63, and then by just an awesome interview because of the people that were being interviewed with Blessings in a Backpack, and just what a phenomenal organization. Christine Smizik, who's the president and CEO at Shure Electronics, and Dan Summons, who is the managing director for Blessings in a Backpack here in Chicago, part of the national group. So it's great to hang with them for a little bit. Make sure you reach out to Blessings in a Backpack. They're doing work right here locally, but you can tap into them anywhere in the country. Just go to their website and you'll find out what they're doing, who they're helping, and making sure that children get to the weekend and have a weekend where they are not hungry. So with all the craziness that's going on right now, and all the things that these idiots and the Republican Party, the GOP, and I'm calling them all that because and the reason I'm going to talk about this in the 6:30 hour, so I don't want to get too far ahead of myself in terms of all of them being idiots. It's talking in terms of voting. We'll get to that. We're going to talk about the Republican bill, which is what I'm going to call it. I'm going to break down some things for you a little bit in the time that we have, but we're going to get into that. But when you have an organization like Blessings in a Backpack doing the work that they're doing, it gives you some hope, and it makes you feel a little bit better, and it gives you guys, as our listeners and followers all over the country, the opportunity to get involved with a group that's making a difference daily. I mean, tangibly. I mean, that's like it's so up close and personal. It's like shaking the hand of a friend. That's how up close and personal it is, right, Henry? I mean, they're making sure that kids on the weekend got food in their bellies and a little bit of sense of pride. So when there's these idiots in the Republican Party, the maggots, the voters, as well as the elected officials, I'm not letting anybody off the hook. You you have an organization like Blessings in a Backpack and Dan Summons, who does the work that he does, and the board and all the other people that they have here in Chicago and throughout the country. That should give you a little bit of inspiration to say that there's somebody out there, there's somebodies out there that are doing something to take care of literally the youngest among us. I won't say the least among us, but the youngest among us. And as Dan said yesterday, all zip codes have a food insecurity issue. That ought to tell you something. It also should hopefully motivate you to punch back on these fools. Okay, I'm going to stay on point, Henry. But I just wanted to give a shout out to Blessings in a Backpack for being with us yesterday. It was really cool. All right, guys, time for a couple of choose news views items. We'll hit these with you, and then we'll get to the break. Speaking of, spring break spending is spiking, guys. Travelers appear willing to pay up this, meaning to pay more, the spring break, with an average insured trip where it's exceeded and expected to top 8,300 this year, according to Bloomberg. Citing a survey by travel insurance comparer Squaremouth. A lot of analysis is going on. It looked at 6,000 planned trips. That's quite a bit to come up with these numbers. 8,300 this year is expected to top. The 2025 estimate is 26% of a jump from last year's $6,125 in terms of $6,125 versus the 8,300 that it's expected to be this year. The data found that 40% are taking bucket list trips and warm weather destinations remain popular. That makes sense. Listen, in this craziness, we want folks to be out and doing things. There's no doubt about that. So kudos to the folks that are planning trips and that can plan trips and go on trips, and we all want to be supportive of that. Eli Lilly is to build 4 new plants in the U.S. They're spending somewhere in the range of $27 billion to build 4 manufacturing plants in the U.S. in order to move production back to the United States. 3 of the sites will make active ingredients for drugs, while another facility will boost production for Lilly's injectable drugs. The Trump administration recently warned drug companies that don't reshore operations that they could face tariffs. The new plants will create more than 3,000 jobs and will be built over the next 5 years. And by the way, President Biden's administration was already pushing the drug manufacturers in this direction. So this will be, once again, a grab by the Trump administration to say we did it. And no, in fact, Biden administration came in office with one of their big goals. It was in that space. All right, BP pivots back to fossil fuels. BP has announced its fundamental reset strategy aimed at slashing spending on renewable energy and doubling down on fossils. So Trump, what are you doing about that? Investments in oil and gas, I wonder why, because of the industry maybe, will increase to $10 billion through 2027, a reversal of strategy set out by the former CEO, Bernie Looney, to reduce oil and gas output by 40% by 2030. The shift comes as investor pressure mounts on BP to improve its financial performance, and other energy giants such as Shell also abandoned green transition targets. This is straight out of the playbook of what the Trump administration wanted to see. You remember when he had the meeting down in Mar-a-Lago and told the oil industry, if you give me $1 billion, I'll help to push these changes. So this has nothing to do with investor pressure. It has to do with what Trump is trying to deliver on a promise he made to the oil and gas industry. Plain and simple. Don't be fooled by the okie doke. Hospital violence jars many clinicians. Nurses and doctors are reeling after 2 separate attacks in hospitals have taken place. Violence against healthcare workers who already have one of the most dangerous jobs has reached unprecedented levels since 2020. Last week, a psychiatric patient, attacked a nurse in Florida, breaking nearly every bone in her face. Then in Pennsylvania, a man shot ICU staff and killed a police officer after learning that his wife was out of treatment options. We got to take care of our medical folks, y'all. We just do. Wall Street braces. This is important. If you're not a Wall Street person, it's still as important as it relates to the markets. And we'll talk a little bit about this in 401k space. NVIDIA's highly anticipated earnings report was released late yesterday and is expected to offer key insights into demand for chip fueling the artificial intelligence boom. And this is something, again, that President Biden had sort of leaned into. All right, guys, some Choose Views news for you this morning. When we come back from this break, we're going to talk about a couple things that are happening here locally. And then when we get into the 6:30 hour, I'm going to bring you some things that I think you need to know a little bit about when it comes to this budget. All right, guys, the number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
This is a WCPT Moment in Labor. In 2011, 6 Jimmy John's employees in Minneapolis were fired by their franchise-owning company, Mickey Lynn Enterprises, after fighting for paid sick days. This is a common theme in the union-free world of fast food. Over 13 million Americans work in the fast food industry, making an average of $13,500 a year, not even half the average cost of living. 80% of fast food workers have experienced work-related injuries, and only 13% were covered by their employer. A group of employees referred to as the Jimmy John's Six fought for these rights, creating an online campaign, posting a picture of 2 sandwiches saying one of these was made by a healthy employee, the other was made by a sick employee. Can you tell the difference? Too bad, as Jimmy John's workers do not get paid sick days. Help workers win sick days. More than 32 million Americans work a job that does not offer paid sick days. This has been a WCPT Moment in Labor. We're working for your rights.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
It's Choose View with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose View, 773-763-9278. Lines are open, so give us a call if you so desire. Send us a text if you choose to, or send me an email. You can do all the above, right, Henry? We're not stopping them. We're not saying you can't do that. Go right ahead. Locally, a couple quick things for you guys. We won't get too deep into the details just yet, but we will let you know about the fact that the city council here in Chicago passes Mayor Brandon's $830 million infrastructure bond plan after a lot of pushback. And there's going to be a lot of folks yelling about this. There already were in a very heated debate Wednesday that had been taking place over the past couple of weeks. But the mayor got what he wanted. I mean, that's the city council voted for it. So we'll see how that plays out, and I will definitely be talking with him about that next Friday. Right, Henry? Okay, so we'll leave it there, but I just wanted to let you guys know that I did see that. I am aware of it, and we will talk to the mayor about it next week. Also here locally, Governor Pritzker announces medical debt relief for 170,000 Americans, Illinoisans. I believe that number is correct. But here's what's really important about it. The debt erased more than $345 million in medical debt. And it's specific to people that have, that's an average amount of debt of about $1,300. That's a big deal. That $1,300 may not seem like a lot to a lot of people, but as I say to folks, you put any amount of money on the table, and I'm fighting you for it. Henry and I will be scuffling in here if somebody walked in and dropped $1,300 cash on the table. Henry might, he might have to tell me, look over there, Richard, and I'll look in the other direction, and he snatches the dough. The point I'm making, not to demean this, is that $1,300 means a lot. And when you talk about in the space of debt relief, that's a big deal. Under the medical debt relief program, every $1 spent on medical debt buyback and the relief programs erases approximately $170 in medical debt for patients, according to the governor's office. Let's see. The program targets households that have their income is at or below 400% of the poverty level. For those that have medical debt that exceeds 5% of their household income. So I'm happy that is taking place. I say this often, guys, and the mayor's catching heat. He's going to. That's a reality. It's one of the reasons we try to have him on the show. And so is the governor. They're going to all catch heat because they're out there fighting it. So the people that have issues with what the mayor and the governor are doing, step up to the mic. You run for office. So I'm not justifying either of them. I'm supporters of what I want them to succeed. Let's put it that way. Okay? I want them to succeed. So when I talk about the mayor and I talk about the governor and I try to give them inspirational thoughts about their work and working together and making sure they're doing things to better for the city and the state and really the country, it's because I want them to succeed. So I've gotten criticism. People say, oh, you got your head up the mayor's behind, or you got your head up the governor's behind, the lieutenant. It's like, okay, well, I want them to succeed. That doesn't change. If that's where my head is placed in some people's opinions, it's because I want them to succeed. It's that simple. They aren't going to get it all right. They're going to make some mistakes. Some of the folks, the MAGA folks, are okay with Elon Musk saying, hey, you're not going to bat 1,000. But you're okay with him being up in your business. So just, I check people when it comes to things like this. It's like that guy that called in last week, Henry, that said that I was in favor of what Governor Hochul was doing with Mayor Adams in New York. I'm like, well, who did you vote for? Oh, I voted for Trump. Really? Okay. That knock on the door, it's not coming from me. All right. A little shift of gears because I want to talk about some things that we have to be prepared for with tomorrow. And we already have a call about this. But here's the thing I want to just take a pause and a deep breath on. In the last 2 days, we've lost two of our great artists and performers. You guys heard most recently Gene Hackman passed away, as well as Roberta Flack passed away. So in the last 2 days, guys, we lost two of our great artists and great influencers in terms of the work that they've done. Gene's work is legendary, from some of his most epic movies and box office, blockbuster movies to just some simple stuff that he did, simple work that he did. And so, give his life and his legacy a shout out. And the same thing goes for Roberta Flack. When people pass away, I like to take a moment and pause because they've impacted our lives in one way or the other. And so Roberta Flack, the songs are legendary. And throughout her career, Henry, that you heard nothing but good things about her and how she treated the people she worked with, the other artists that she performed with and recorded with, as well as the people that were the studio musicians that she worked with. They all had nothing but great things to say about her. And from everything I know, Gene Hackman was a tough guy in the sense that he didn't take any mess. But from everything I read about him over his career, he was great to work with. He was very demanding of himself and the people he worked with. But he played fair and he treated people with respect. And I always appreciated that. So, give some shout outs to their legacy, as we do with everybody that we know or that we know of, that passes, because I think in our life, we have to make sure we press pause and do that. And we miss some, no doubt about that. We don't catch everything and everybody, but when it is in front of us, we should take the moment. So I just wanted to give those two shout outs. Now, I had someone say to me, Richard, what do I do? I'm so frustrated with all that's happening right now, and I feel like I want to have impact. And we're on the press. We're on the eve of the big blackout tomorrow. Okay, I'm going to talk about that more after the break. I want to take a call as a reminder, but I've got some things I want to square up with you guys in terms of that. So what am I saying? Someone asked me about that in terms of what do they do with their company's 401k plan. I don't give financial advice on the show, so I won't do that. But I will say this. If you're looking for a way to have impact on companies that you're not square with in terms of them being supporters of MAGA and all the rest, and that are pulling away from DEI and that are from diversity, equity, and inclusion, to say the words, if you got an issue with that, then what you should do is talk to your human resources department and find out what the company is investing in through the 401k plan that you have. So making a clear note, I'm not giving financial advice. I'm giving advice about how to talk to HR. Go to HR and say, where are we with our plan? What are we investing in through our company's retirement plan? They have the responsibility to tell you what that is. And then if you decide that you're not cool with that, that's how you have an immediate impact. That's how you can have take a stand. And they will tell you what to do. I won't tell you what to do. I'm just going to let you know, go to HR. Someone asked me that question. I got an email regarding that, and I was like, okay, here's how I'm going to handle it. With the big asterisk, not giving financial advice, just telling you how to deal with, if you want to have impact, talk to HR. All right, let's take a quick call before we go to the break. Let's go to our good friend Karen in Chicago. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning. I mean, what was I thinking? Of course you were going to remind everybody about the blackout starting tonight at midnight and ending tomorrow at 11:59 p.m.
It's right here in my notes. It says blackout tomorrow.
What was I thinking? I'm like, what was I thinking? Of course Richard's going to remember to tell people that. But you know what? I just wanted to call in and say hello, really. But yeah, I just wanted to say, just get your gas. Get your gas today. Get your groceries today. It's one day. We can do this. Talk to everybody. I literally, Richard, you'll appreciate this. And it will totally track with who I am. At the grocery store, I'm shopping for my olive juice or olive brine for my dirty martinis because, yeah, I am going there a little more frequently now. But I got into this 20-minute long conversation with this lovely woman and asked her if she knew about the blackout. And she's like, you know what? And so I told her about it. She goes, oh, I will tell everybody about it. I told her about your show. I told her about my podcast. I told her about Joan and, of course, Stephanie and Patty Vasquez. And so, but we had a nice 20-minute conversation. And I'm telling you, she didn't seem to me to be an overly political person, but she knew her stuff. Like, she's paying attention. So it gives me hope that people are really paying attention. But as far as the blackout goes, I am going to also recommend to people take out a little bit of cash because we do have our local businesses to support.
Right. And
I don't want my local coffee shop to do without, to suffer the consequences because she did nothing wrong.
Right.
She's so I am also urging people that, take out some cash today if you can and just go on over, tomorrow if you're going to spend money, go ahead and do it wisely, spend local, on your local businesses. And then tomorrow night, OPRF HS, Go Huskies, my alma mater in Oak Park.
So here's the thing that I'll add to that, Karen, in terms of getting some cash and doing your shopping today. Reverend Al Sharpton talked about that, where he said, "Listen, what we're trying to do is make a statement on a particular day that ironically is the last day of February, and it's the last day of Black History Month. That's also some of the backstory of this is that all Americans should take responsibility and say, I'm not going to spend money with the big corporations who are part of what's in Trump's DNA right now when it comes to who's kissing up to him and who he in turn is kissing back to. So go get your necessities that you may need tomorrow. Do the things that you have to do as much as you can today. And then tomorrow, as best you possibly can, don't spend money with the big organizations because they are the ones in many cases, according to the data, that have funded a lot of what Trump is trying to accomplish and trying to do to harm people. So make sure that you take care of yourself and those around you. But this is the benefit of this is two-sided. One, it's a benefit to say to the businesses, we can impact you. We can have you notice that we're doing something. The other side of it is, though, in my observation, Karen, is it is an empowering statement for an individual to say, I'm taking a stand and not doing X, Y, and Z, because sometimes that will help fill the void for so many people who don't know what to do. What can I do, Richard? What can I do, Karen? What can I do, the rest of you guys who are out here leading this charge? It's a two-sided effort, in my opinion.
Yes, I agree. And, and I mean, for myself, the only business that I'm going to spend money in is a Black-owned business.
There you go. There you go.
But I did want to just give a plug. So my alma mater, I was about to say, OPRFHS, tomorrow night, they have their Empty Bowls event. It is at 201 North Scoville Avenue in Oak Park from 6 to 8 p.m. Students are $15, and to community members and that's everybody, $20. And what it is you go in, and I believe you get a bowl, a lovely, pottery bowl, and you get the bowl, and they have donated soup, and you have a bowl of soup. And it is to benefit the World Central Kitchen, Housing Forward, Beyond Hunger, and Global Alliance for Africa.
Wow. That's okay. There you go. I'm glad you got a chance to talk about that. And that's when, this weekend?
That is tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night. Okay.
Yeah. Some of my girls from the walking group are going to be meeting me there.
So tomorrow,
to go do that.
Tomorrow, we will definitely talk about that in more detail. To remind folks to try to support your alma mater because of the bigger work that this is a part of. But I am going to tell you that I'm not going to hang up on you, but I do have to go to a break.
Well, okay then. I know I'm used to the hard breaks. Hard breaks.
I'm better than that. I'm better than that. All right, Karen, thanks for the update. We look forward to talking to you tomorrow.
Thanks,
all right, have a great day.
Have a good day.
We're going to take a quick break, guys. The number is 773-763-9278. Choose Views. We'll be right back.
Retired or retiring soon? How much money do you need to live comfortably? Retirement Planners of America is here for you. Would you like to have financial peace of mind? Here's how. Step 1. Find out the amount of money you'll need to retire. Step 2. Have a plan to get there. Step 3. Make sure that plan can take advantage of market gains but protect you from market losses. Discover how to do all three with a free consultation at 800-508-6108. That's 800-508-6108.
All investments involve risk, including losses. Past performance does not guarantee future results.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Paul Frombley. A dense fog advisory continues until 7 a.m. today. Slight chance of rain showers today. Otherwise, cloudy skies expected. High temperatures reach up to 47. Winds out of the west, 10 to 20 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies tonight. Lows dip down to about 32. Highs level off around 57 tomorrow. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Right now, 37.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
It's Choose View with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose View. 773-763-9278. Karen is a funny person. Today, live, local, and progressive, Joan Esposito will be joined by Mark Jacob and Jennifer Schulze with their regular media conversation, and Chris Lehman, D.C. Bureau Chief for The Nation. Live, local, and progressive weekdays, 2 to 5 p.m. here on WCPT, Heartland Signal website, and tune in. Tonight, this is what I was talking about earlier, from 5 to 7, Patty Vasquez will be driving it home with guest host Carmen Navarro Jacone and Texas State Representative James Tallarico. Also with, and part of that conversation will be Laura Tennyson, who was a witness to the recent chaotic arrest of Idaho activist Dr. Teresa Bornpole. So you guys want to tune in to that. I've seen the video a number of times and have said to myself, and I posted this on social media, that they're just lucky that I wasn't there. And I asked the question, where were all the men? And it's not being sexist and saying that, but where were all the other people? Recording this stuff is one thing, Henry, but sometimes you got to put the damn phone down and get up and do something. When they got to the point where they were dragging this woman out of the place, I'm sorry. Well, I'm not sorry. That's just wrong. It was freedom of speech, and they decided to drag her out, and guys were doing it. I mean, what punks? This is why I've said this so many times. This is why I know that there is a God of some sort, because I'm never there. Shouldn't say never. Last year at the women's event, I was there. But anyhow, I'm sorry. I just don't like to see that abuse of power. It's part of who I am. So make sure to join Patty today, because she's going to have on some great guests, but particularly she will be talking with Laura Tennyson, who's a witness to the to the event, the chaotic arrest of Idaho activist Dr. Teresa Borenpol. Driving Home with Patty Vasquez, 5 to 7 here on WCPT. Make sure you're checking out all of our podcasts, mine particularly the Choose Views, featured interviews, and you can find all of those by simply searching for Choose Views or get the links on my show page by visiting heartlandsignal.com and clicking on my picture. Click on the forehead. That's what I was told in any of that. Click where you want to. All right, guys, got to keep it moving along. Tomorrow, Karen will be with us from True Blue Politics Podcast, and Illinois State Reps Cam Buckner and Harry Benton will be on our show. And remember, next Friday, we will have Mayor Brandon Johnson for our regular the Month with the Mayor segment. So just to let you guys know. All right. Here's what I wanted to talk about. And I'm not going to be nice in this case. This is sort of my partnering with the conversation around the blackout tomorrow. At the top of the list, from what I've been hearing from a lot of people the last week plus, 2 weeks plus, frankly, is that Amazon has to be probably the number one company that you decide to not do business with tomorrow. And I would agree with that. Like I said, I'm not going to be nice. Jeff Bezos did not pull himself up by the bootstraps. You guys understand that. His mother, and I'm not criticizing this, I'm criticizing the optics around, oh, he built this thing from, he was scraping around in his garage. And his mom front-loaded at about $300,000 if the details are all correct. And that's fine. But let's not just lean over, bend over and say that Jeff Bezos is some savant when it comes to his business efforts. He, like Musk, and frankly, what's that boy's name from Meta? Mark Zuckerberg. Yeah. And many other businesses have gotten their businesses started and moved forward because they had money that came from parents or some other person. And that's fine. But they also got money from our governments, plural, local and federal. And the reason that I wanted to position this way is that you could get upset with Mayor Johnson or with Governor Pritzker for doing things with our budget to try to make things better. But you also have to realize that some of these so-called business savants are not business savants necessarily, or their success is not solely because they pulled themselves up by their bootstraps and started scrapping it they had money from somebody. And in many cases, it was taxpayer dollars that they got grants and funding and tax abatements to do what they do. Let's be honest. The Chicago Bears want to build a new stadium. The White Sox want to build a new stadium. Guess where some of that money's going to come from, Henry? My man's beating his chest. It's coming from us, y'all. So we are fully righteous in our indignation about blacking out tomorrow when it comes to businesses. And at the top of the list for many people is Amazon. And I'm going to link this to something that that you guys may know about, so I might be repeating something you're already aware of. But if you're not, Jeff Bezos just appointed himself, he's taking over the opinion page at the Washington Post. And most certainly that will now focus and direct the opinion page on a MAGA agenda. You mark my words on that. And so at the same time we're talking about tomorrow's blackout, we also should be mindful of what we have to do with certain forms of media. Jeff Bezos basically all but threatened a gentleman that was to take the position or to remain as editor and of the opinion part of the newspaper. His name is David Shipley. And he basically suggested, from what I read, that unless Shipley was willing to move the opinion part of the newspaper, the opinion page, to a more sort of freedom is an ethical position, and it minimizes coercion and incentivizes creativity, if he wasn't willing to move this opinion page in that direction with a hell yes, I will, then it was time for him to go. And so David Shipley decided to step away. And now Bezos is taking the lead as the head of the opinion page. So it's about to become a very pro-billionaire opinion page. And you just watch. So if you want to black out something, or if you want to, stand away to some extent from the word boycott per se, but if you want to have an impact in another venue, the Washington Post might be a spot as well. But watch that space, as Rachel would say. Rachel Maddow. All right. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, again, I try to take a little bit of a beat on certain things and do a little bit of research to make sure that I understand the parameters of certain things that we talk about. And as I did with regard to what's happening with Joy Reid and MSNBC and others, same thing applies here with regard to the blackout. Be mindful, be prepared, but make the statement. And in your own mind, know that you made a statement. Now, you guys are very plugged in, folks, and very aware of what's happening. And you probably are fully aware that our American reputation is being swatted around. There are numbers of leaders throughout the world that are just looking, that they're looking at us and asking, what the heck is going on in the United States of America? Well, they know what's going on. They just are in disbelief that it's happened in the way in which it did so fast, and that so many Americans just didn't pay attention, that walk around thumping their chest about how smart and wonderful and we're great, but at the same time would make such a decision that's such a disgusting decision, MAGA. Absolutely disgusting. If you didn't vote, I got issues with that. And if your reasoning was they're all the same, and I got more issues with that. But if you're MAGA and you call yourself an intelligent person, a smart person, a thinking person, somebody that can put their pants on or their articles of clothing on, so I don't get too deep in the gender conversation, then how in the hell could you just be so... And people say, don't call them stupid because they're going to take offense to that. Well, I take offense to what they did. So, too bad. Toughen up. Toughen up. You told me and millions like me that we were stupid and we were elite and we were arrogant. And now you're asking, oh, please, please, please. So we got two clips that Henry and I put together. We're going to hit you with these. We'll take a break, and then we come back. We're going to talk a little bit about this budget that the Republicans passed because the Dems didn't do it. We'll talk about the numbers there. All right, Henry, let's share with them the Senator Andy Kim clip.
People certainly understand that, the status quo in our country, that government and politics, it was broken. There are things we need to change. And I'm ready to have that debate and that conversation about how we can fix things. But this is not the way we go about this. This is just putting our country at risk, giving, adversaries and competitors access to this information. Like, when I was been meeting, I was out at the Munich Security Conference and elsewhere, and, other countries are literally like, these leaders come to me, they're like, what is happening in America? That's literally, they talk to me as if, like I have a sick puppy or something. They're just like, are you okay? Like, what is happening in your country? And it's really sad to just see how much our reputation has taken a hit and how much other countries are literally just watching what's happening in America in shock that the most powerful country in the world can be reduced to this level of damage in just a matter of weeks.
So, Senator Andy Kim, right there, this is exactly what I was speaking to, and I wanted you guys to hear that, those wonderful words from him. And at the same time, as we are in this throes of this Republican budget, Representative Crow had something to say on Rachel that I thought was pretty profound in terms of measuring this current bill that the Republicans have passed. So let's bring that to them, Henry.
What should people know about what it was that was voted on tonight and what the consequences of this might be? Well, the major consequence is they've passed a bill that's not paid for, that gives massive tax breaks to corporations and billionaires and does it on the backs of regular Americans, mainly by slashing their health care and gutting our Medicaid program. Right? They are trying to use a tactic of burden shifting onto the states, saying that the states should pay for this, but they know the states can't pay for it, so they know that much of this coverage will go belly up for folks. So it is a terrible, terrible bill. There was a lot of drama in D.C. leading up to this vote. Are people going to hold out? Are people going to fight for their constituents? Never underestimate the willingness of House Republicans to fold and capitulate when Donald Trump tells them to jump. And that's exactly what happened tonight.
So, as we go to this break, when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the impacts of what's taken place. But yeah, guys, here we are. So we're going to keep it moving forward. We're going to keep bringing you information. We'll take a quick break. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
When you're in the thick of a project, Harbor Freight is the place that always comes in handy. Whether you're picking up something for your pickup truck or a power tool for your project, at Harbor Freight, your dollar always goes further. And these days, when everything seems to cost more, you can take pride in knowing that you get hard-working tools at hard-working prices. Whatever you do it for less at Harbor Freight.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
You're listening to Choose View with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Guys, welcome back to Choose Views. Hey, listen, there is a recording, a clip of House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries talking about the Republicans historically. Going back, I think he goes back to Reagan. We're not going to play the clip because it's a little over 5 minutes long today. But I would suggest, if you guys can get to that, I have it. I'll get it to you if you want it. But it really does break down with presentation boards what actually has happened over the years, and it's a numerical breakdown, so it's a little bit wonky to play on the air for 5 minutes. But if you guys want it, I will send it to you. Email me and I'll get it to you because it's a really good clip. It's just that the visual is important as much as the audio. And Henry's nodding profusely like, yeah, good call. So just to let you know, we've got that. We'll get it to you. So real quick, guys, we're going to circle back to what Representative Crow and what what Senator Kim had to say. But I want to read a couple of text messages that we received this morning from different folks. And just hear this out, guys. Tomorrow's blackout should definitely include not purchasing fast food from McDonald's since they backed off their DEI initiatives. McDonald's reaches all demographics, so we can help send a message. Thank you. That's right. A very, very good point. It does reach all demographics. Okay, let's get to another one real quickly that I just felt we should read, Henry. Yes, it's so sad that we are such a consumer-oriented country that taking a day off from buying things will be tough for some people. We don't always need to buy stuff. So much of it we really don't need. By the way, when I was a kid, things like gas stations weren't always open. Sundays meant you better have everything you need, since about the only things that were open were delis, and those were even closed, and many restaurants. Good Lord, don't we realize how pampered we are? Great point. That comes from one of our listeners, Lois. So thank you, Lois, for that. And then here's another one that you guys I think will appreciate. In terms of the blackout, Amazon, Amazon, yes, but don't forget Starbucks, who is rabidly anti-union. I forgot about that. So thanks 630 for that one. And then another one, check this out, Henry. Email Justin Trudeau and Emmanuel Macron and congratulate them on their new positions as leaders of the free world, since Trump has advocated that role. Damn. Thanks, 630. Appreciate you. Wow. Okay, so Representative Crow talked about the budget and where we are with this. So I'm going to lean into this for a few minutes. It's something that I wanted to just chat with you guys about. And the question is, what's in the budget that was just passed and what we need to know? The GOP, and let's be clear, let's hang this around their necks and tie it to their feet. The GOP passed a vote of 217 to 215. And that means that after Mike Johnson had convinced several Republicans holdouts, including Representatives Victoria Sparks of Indiana, Tim Burchett of Tennessee, and Warren Davidson of Ohio to come on board with the proposal. So he calls it a first big step for America to balance the budget. That's such BS because what's in the House budget, the devil, as they say, what's the phrase, the devil's in the details, Henry? So let's talk about this for a second. The House's plan would set up a massive reconciliation bill that would extend the 2017 Donald Trump, Paul Ryan tax cuts that were designed then, and now that they're coming to term, and this is why big business, wealthy, and billionaires and beyond got behind Trump. Let's just call it as it is, you guys. A lot of people are not afraid to, but don't call it out enough, and I'm just going to take up some space here. When this bill in 2017 was passed, in early 2018, Eric Grant and I talked about this on the family meeting. We said that this was going to come back and bite Americans in the behind, that they let Trump in, and that this bill being passed by Trump and Ryan was going to come back and harm the country. It's expiring. I've said this on this show last year. One of the big reasons why they were pushing so hard, the wealthy individuals. So some of y'all are right here in Illinois, in some of our wonderful suburbs, and in the city of Chicago and other places. Some of you are all over that voted red because you know that this tax bill from 2017 was going to come to bite people in the behind, and you are on that list because you didn't want to see your taxes go up. None of us want to pay more in taxes, but this is extraordinarily different because of the large amount of wealth that's going to be recalibrated and recaptured by the same people that benefited from the tax bill in 2017. So that's why they got behind Trump in this space, because now they're going to be able to further and continue or extend, whatever word you want to use, the 2017 tax cuts. And that's why these businesses said, yeah, we're all in, because we don't really give a darn about these other folks. We're going to get our tax cut. So here's the numbers. That's going to cost $4.5 trillion over the next decade. Did y'all hear me? $4.5 trillion. That's not going in your pocket because it's not a savings to regular, everyday, middle-class folks. So all the people running around during the lead-up to the election that bought into and then voted on November 4th for this carnage, this is squarely on you because you should have had enough sense. You should have been less egotistically driven, even though we can talk about how race and gender played into this and nationalism, but privilege also played into this. So now you're going to be saddled with this $4.5 trillion for the next decade. Okay? Here's more information. It would also allocate $300 billion for spending on defense and border security. Almost said that. Ooh, woo. Henry threw something at me. He saw my mouth pursing to say that word. And he's dying laughing now. But look, y'all, $300 billion spending on defense and border security. How about this? How about if we spend a little less on border security and figure out why we really have this problem in the first doggone place, which is what Vice President Harris was trying to do. She wasn't a border czar. And deporting people is not going to fix that. Y'all got to understand that. Just willy-nilly deporting people en masse. Illegal folks from any country. If you're from Russia here illegally, your behind should go. If you're from Poland, if you're from the UK, if you're from Wales, if you're from any of those, quote, white centered, lovely countries that Trump is in love with, quote unquote. Those are his own sort of words. You know what I'm talking about. Deport them if they're here illegally and have done illegal things. But I don't see that ire being focused on it. So that's a waste of money being allocated in terms of border security if you're not going to fix all of the immigration issues that don't just include southern and northern borders. They include all ways that people come to the United States. That was a mouthful. Sorry, you guys. But more spending on defense, unless it's training to enhance the people that are defending the country, then we don't need any more weapons, Henry. How many more weapons do we need to defend ourselves? But why are we defending ourselves? You wouldn't need to necessarily defend yourself if you weren't out there causing hell and carnage. Okay? That's going to add almost $3 trillion to the federal deficit over the next 10 years. So hang this around your Republican representatives. Call them up and let them know how stupid they were, how stupid they are, and how irresponsible they are with our tax dollars. Those doesn't need to be going into our records at the housing at HUD. That's what they're doing now. They're sneaking in. They gain access to confidential records on housing discrimination medical details. Really? No. But Republicans, this is around your neck. This is not around the Democrats, because we voted, and kudos to Hakeem Jeffries. He kept that caucus in line. Here's how close it is. And when you guys think I'm crazy when I say we got to still keep our eye on these 2 seats in Florida and Stefanik's seat in New York, do y'all realize Representatives Victoria Sparks of Indiana, Tim Burchett of Tennessee, Warren Davidson of Ohio were on the fence? So, of course, Mike Johnson went in and he stirred things up and he whipped those votes. But just imagine if those 3 had stayed in line with the Democrats. This bill wouldn't have passed. So that's when I say if we want to be involved and have impact and be able to do something, guys, let's do what we can to try to win not only those seats, but to win the seats that are right here in Illinois, but right in your own state. If there is a congressional person in your state, if you're in a red state, and there's a representative that voted red or that is red, however you want to say it, you've got to get their attention and let them know that we're coming for them. And yes, we've got open seats right now. The reason I'm saying right now we've got local elections that we have to be on top of. And these 2 in Florida and the 1 in New York are because of vacated seats. That's the first fruit that we can try to grab. 3 people, 3 House representatives were holdouts. They were holdouts, guys. That's how close we are to having major impact. So those are names that we need to be calling. Why did Sparks, Burchett, and Davidson hold out? What was the reasoning? What were they thinking? Let's find that information out and use that as a way to get them on our side going forward with other votes. We have to be optimistic and aspirational about this. Because we have to know what our tools are. And when it comes to this budget, this is one of those tools that we could have, or one of these opportunities where we could have used those tools to win and bank down this crazy A budget. It would also direct multiple committees to cut billions of dollars, including the $880 billion in cuts spearheaded by the Energy and Commerce Committee. And also cuts to Medicare, Social Security, and Medicaid, and the assistance that's provided there. So, we're coming to the top of the hour. I want to say a few more things before we wrap up, because we have our guests that are going to be with us in the 7 o'clock and 7:30 hours. The Democrats voted against this right down the line. And this particular bill, according to Republican Representative Thomas Massie of Kentucky, Massie voted against the plan because it, quote, doesn't cut spending much and it will only add to the U.S. debt. There you go. It's that simple, guys. It's that simple. So, A little bit of a rant, but I wanted to provide you with a few numbers. If you need more, I can get them to you. But for now, we're going to take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
WCPT Replay.
We're blessed to have our wonderful Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton with us this morning.
People have to understand the work that we have been able to do here in Illinois under Governor Pritzker's leadership and with our partners in the General Assembly is we have been able to put things in place, policies and laws, so that no matter who ended up in the White House this term, we would have protections here in Illinois. When I look at what we've done to protect reproductive freedom here in Illinois and enshrine the right to reproductive care, abortion care, what we've done to protect LGBTQ plus rights right here in Illinois, what we've done to protect workers' rights, the Workers' Rights Amendment, we raised the minimum wage, and so many other things. These are the progressive values that we have been able to make real progress on here in Illinois.
Keep listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Imagine all the things you dream of under one roof. You're thinking of eBay. Fashion, collectibles, car parts, it's all there. Go find the thing that keeps you up at night. eBay. Things people love.
AP News. Good morning, I'm Ed Donahue. An Academy Award winner, Gene Hackman, is dead.
All right, gentlemen. He's got one barrel left. When he fires that, take out your pistols and shoot him down like the mangy scoundrel he is.
The sheriff in Santa Fe, New Mexico says Hackman, his wife, and their dog were found dead in their home. Foul play is not suspected. An investigation is underway. The 95-year-old Hackman has been away from Hollywood for about 20 years. He spoke to the AP in 2000 about scaling back.
70 is a big number, and you start looking in that, and then you look down the road and you say, well, I wonder how many more of those guys I'm going to have.
Gene Hackman held special status within Hollywood, heir to Spencer Tracy as an everyman actor's actor, curmudgeon, and reluctant celebrity. Outside Rome's Gemelli Hospital,
Francisco, hermano, queremos verte sano.
People were cheering for Pope Francis, who continues his slow recovery from double pneumonia, beating back speculation of an imminent death, resignation, or conclave, and signaling that he was still very much in charge, albeit in a weakened state. An official says Israel will not withdraw from a strategic corridor in Gaza as called for by the ceasefire. It could spark a crisis with Hamas and key mediator Egypt at a sensitive moment for the fragile truce. President Trump has signed an executive order meant to expand the power and reach of his government cost-cutting effort led by Elon Musk.
We're cutting down government. We're cutting down the size of government. We have to. We're bloated. We're sloppy. We have a lot of people that aren't doing their job. We have a lot of people that don't exist.
USAID workers will be given 15 minutes today and tomorrow to clear their workspaces as the agency gets dismantled. The Trump administration says it's eliminating more than 90% of the USAID foreign aid contracts. This is AP News. A mission to the moon is underway. Here's the AP's Ben Thomas.
3, 2, 1, ignition, and liftoff. Go, Falcon, go into ignition.
A SpaceX rocket blasting off from NASA's Kennedy Space Center Wednesday night, carrying, among other spacecraft, a lunar lander from the private company Intuitive Machines.
You can see IM-2 Nova C lunar lander named Athena floating away from Falcon 9's second stage.
The 15-foot Athena is aiming to land close to the moon's south pole, and then send a drone that will hop into a nearby crater that never sees the sun in a hunt for frozen water. It will be the first up-close peek inside one of the many shadowed craters that dot both the moon's poles. Audio courtesy Intuitive Machines, NASA, and SpaceX. I'm Ben Thomas.
And I'm Ed Donahue, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Paul Frombley. A dense fog advisory continues until 7 a.m. today. Slight chance of rain showers today. Otherwise, cloudy skies expected. High temperatures reach up to 47. Winds out of the west, 10 to 20 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies tonight. Lows dip down to about 32. Highs level off around 57 tomorrow. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Right now, 37.
Are you a parent of a 2 to 8-year-old? Listen closely for an exciting offer, then head to abcmouse.com/radio to learn more. By now, you've probably heard of ABC Mouse.
ABC Mouse is like a little one-on-one teacher. It has helped her so much.
We're offering a promo at abcmouse.com/radio to try it for free for a month, then $14.99 per month until canceled. Go to abcmouse.com/radio to see this offer. That's abcmouse.com/radio. Actual ABC Mouse users compensate for their testimonials, sponsored by Age of Learning.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820 AM, where facts matter. Take it away, Richard.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. So great to be with you. Happy to be with you, and having Henry riding along and keeping us on the rails as always. Make your way over to heartlandsignal.com, our digital platform. What I can tell you is some of the best clips that we have on Heartland Signal on X are there. Everything from our good Michigan Senator Elisa Slotkin. I always got to get that right between Elise Stefanik. Yes. So, Alyssa Slotkin in Michigan, newly elected senator, gets after Dan Bishop after he struggles to answer whether President Trump would cut Social Security. It's a good clip. I'll let you guys enjoy that. She says she just gets into it with him, so you'll appreciate that. And of course, J.B. Pritzker, our own governor here, takes a jab at Elon Musk while talking about how the federal government freezing grants impacts Illinois. We had a situation in Illinois, quote, where the meat processing and poultry processing industry couldn't get inspectors because they're not allowed to do their jobs. So make your way over to heartlandsignal.com. Check out the Heartland Signal on X clips, and of course make sure you are sharing those with the people that you care about, because we have some good stuff there. I appreciate you guys sending me the text messages this morning. They have been very informative and very good to read on the air. All right, so this morning, the topic that I mentioned last week and actually 2 weeks ago, and we've been trying to get a little bit more substance and substantive information behind that, and it's around the right to vote and around the importance of defending the vote. And with us this morning is a gentleman who is, as I say so often, sleeves rolled up and elbows deep in the process, and that's Brian Lemek, who's the executive director and founder of Defend the Vote. Brian, good morning, and welcome to Choose Views.
Richard, thank you so much.
Glad that you're with us, and this is, I know where I'm going to start, but I know there's so much that I want to just like throw at you and say, come on, Brian, help us out here. But first and foremost, what I'd like to do is have you let folks know a little bit about Defend the Vote and about the work specifically that you're dealing with right now. I know we're going to get into talking about the SAVE Act and how that's going to impact so many women. But first, let folks know a little bit about Defend the Vote.
Absolutely. So our mission is really not complicated, though the work is. We're fighting to preserve our most valuable American rights and really the freedom to vote, and we just want to make sure that all Americans' voices are heard. So how do we do that? Well, we're prioritizing the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, the Freedom to Vote Act. We're prioritizing funding our elections through HAVA election security grants. And we really are just working toward this comprehensive pro-democracy bills that address those core challenges that undermine the democracy. So we do it through our 501c4 Defend the Vote Action Fund, and we also do it through our Political Action Committee Defend the Vote, where we invested over $7.5 million last cycle for pro-democracy candidates and pro-democracy efforts, including get out the vote efforts and including voter registration drives.
Like you said, it's simple, but the work is challenging and definitely a heavy lift. You've also been deeply involved in stopping gun violence with the pact that you put together. Talk about that for a bit.
Yes, sir, absolutely. So, Stop Gun Violence PAC is a new endeavor of ours, about 2 years in the making now, and we're doing it's a very similar mission. We're prioritizing pro-gun violence prevention candidates for Congress, many in Illinois as well, some real champions there. Robin being one of them. We're looking toward bringing the issue back into the spotlight. What we've all witnessed, especially in D.C., is there's been so much happening that key issues like gun violence prevention have kind of lost their footing and aren't prioritized in the same way that we'd like to see. But one component of that, which we can also tie to democracy, is the reality that without a strong democracy, we can't prioritize issues like gun violence prevention. With the money in politics play that we see corporations, we see the gun lobby, we see other enterprises and lobbyists putting money, millions and billions of dollars toward that issue, toward the pro-gun movement that is really suppressing the voice of all Americans, which we know 90% want background checks, right? Yeah. How is it that 90% of Americans want something that's not happening? So you can see the tie there between democracy and gun violence prevention and the need to secure both.
And what's interesting is, and I don't know if you've seen the clip, if you've seen the coverage, Pam Bondi was, yes. You know where I'm going. And this, it's sort of a weird conversation. Part of the big pushback from the previous two Democratic administrations when it comes to gun legislation was that Barack Obama's coming to take your guns. The black guy's coming to take your guns. You heard all the garbage. You heard all the noise. And then when we elected Joe Biden to the office, Joe Biden's going to come take your guns. I've got friends that are gun owners here in Illinois that have said, yeah, Chew, I get it, man, but, they're going to, I'm just worried they're going to try to come take my guns. I'm like, look, you lost your damn mind. They're not going to take your guns. It's about gun violence prevention. So the irony of all this is the people who stood behind folks' right to own, or their Second Amendment right, let's put it that way, have been the Democrats actually at the end of the day. And now Pam Bondi, and I'll let you take this and run with it. Pam Bondi sits with Donald Trump to talk about what they want to try to do when it comes to taking folks' guns. You saw that, right?
The irony is it's true. It's overwhelming, right? And I'll say this, just on the topic of Democrats wanting to take guns. I run a pro-gun violence prevention organization, and I run a pro-democracy organization. About 10 minutes before I called in, I was texting with a member of Congress, a Democrat, about going shooting on Saturday morning. Right? Hunting is a part of my life. Firearms are a part of my life, which is exactly why I recognize the dangers and the harms when not safely stored. Why I recognize, and so many others, Democrats and Republicans, recognize that not everyone should have access to these firearms, and we just want to keep them out of the hands of all people we can agree should not have them. Right? Not a complicated concept. So that's kind of where we are. And as far as if we got inside the mind of Donald Trump and Pam Bondi, I don't know if we would ever get out alive. Right? So I cannot even comprehend where they're going with this, except the irony and the hypocrisy is just overwhelming with them both. So what I can say from our movement and what we're trying to do is keep guns out of the hands of people we all agree should not have them. Right? And allow the sportsmen and the enthusiasts to act responsibly by safely storing, keeping them out of the hands of children, keeping them out of the hands of people that are having particular issues, focus on red flag laws, some of these common sense solutions that we all agree on, but simply cannot get passed.
Yeah, I also think that the assault weapons ban is one, and I don't know where you stand on that, but take a moment and just share where you are in that space.
I think ban is a terrifying word for people to hear, right? Okay. The moment you hear ban, all of a sudden it's arms up, no way, right? If we could put the language in a better way and talk about how ending the manufacturing of new assault-style weapons, right? So semi-automatic is a confusing term. Right. I hunt with a semi-automatic shotgun, right? It carries 5 rounds, 5 shells, but because of laws, especially around duck hunting, I'm limited. I have to put 3 shells in it, right? So the ducks are better protected than most Americans are, number one. Number two, that particular firearm, it's a semi-automatic. It's just simply how the gun loads and fires, right? Now, if we look at M4 style platforms, right, the AR-15 style firearm, we look at the capacity of the rounds, right, looking at, some of them can carry, have the capacity for hundreds. We have really good laws that are supposed to keep it to 10, but that's a real reality there that we need to focus on. So let's not talk about, particular banning, right? Like, let's focus on a little bit deeper there too, right? So, because the moment you talk about ban, you lose a lot of sportsmen, and it's a word that confuses, and it's a word that I don't particularly like using either. I just want to make sure that kids don't get murdered anymore, right?
Yep. And I think a lot of times that this is the language that we all can unfortunately fall susceptible to, or be susceptible to using without understanding who it's going to impact. So I'm in agreement with you on that the word, it needs, the law that is surrounding this needs to be changed so that it geo targets and specifically targets what the problem is. And once we get that in place in terms of how the language should be written, then, or how the legislation should be written, then I think we're going to be able to make some moves. But we also have a lot of pushback from the gun lobby in that space, which I know that you deal with face forward all the time. Let's go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry.
No. It doesn't matter what it is. They want to fight you on it.
Yeah.
Right. So safe storage is, everyone agrees to safely store your firearm.
Yeah.
Right. And they want to push back on that too. So
common sense. All right. Let's shift to not a bigger topic, but a big A topic right now when it comes to Defend the Vote and the SAVE Act. And a lot of people don't even know what this means and what it's attempting to do. So take a moment if you can and explain as best you can, and we've got time, for you to kind of break down what this is all about and what it could mean if this were to be enacted.
So at face value, it is a comprehensive voter suppression bill. That's really what it is. And it's designed to block tens of millions of eligible Americans from voting, and it's going to cost us tens of billions of dollars. Right? That's the baseline of what it is. And really what it's doing is once you register to vote, now think about if you've moved recently since your last vote, if you've been married since your last vote, if you've had any changes at all since your last vote, you have to re-register. I could move across the street. I have to re-register. I get married. I have to re-register under my new name, right? This bill is now requiring a passport or a certified birth certificate presented in person. It's really just proof of citizenship to show that you are a United States citizen, right? So the issue that we face here, too, is that more than 21 million Americans lack those documents. Right? They lack the original birth certificate. They lack the passport. 140 million plus Americans don't have passports, right? You need those particular documents to show that you're a United States citizen under the SAVE Act. Now, this is going to hurt millions of Americans, but it's going to hurt military service members, Native Americans, voters of color, rural voters, low-income Americans, and married women. Right, so a married woman, her birth certificate does not match her name. That presents a challenge.
Presuming she changed her name.
Presuming she changed her name. Thank you for that clarification. Presuming she changed her name, that will cause an issue for her because her name no longer matches what's on her birth certificate. And if she doesn't have a passport, then she cannot, under the SAVE Act, register to vote. And then her vote and her voice is no longer heard.
And then we're even further assuming that the passport is the name, and this is where it gets confusing. Is it her birth name or is it her married name?
Yeah.
And so
that's a lot of the confusion there too.
Yeah, Brian, let me ask you this question. You said earlier it's going to cost a tremendous amount of money, and normally I get it, but I'm gonna show my blind side here. Help us understand why it's going to cost so much money.
All right, so 146 million Americans do not have a passport. At $130 per passport, that cost would exceed $19 billion for Americans. Just simply trying to exercise their right to vote. So Illinois, here's a good example. Illinois, 3.2 million people. More than half 57% don't have a passport. That's $416 million, too. Now, I talked about it hurting people of color, people, low-income communities, et cetera. Tell me what you're going to do if you're a family in Chicago and you have the option to spend $130 on a passport so you can get your vote in, or put gas in tank, put food on the table, right? Never mind potential likelihood that you have to take the day off to get the passport, and then you have to take the day off again to register to vote because you have to do it in person. So what is this doing here to those voices? It is simply suppressing their ability to vote, and it's suppressing their ability to be heard. And these are the very people, Chu, whose votes matter the most, that need to be heard the most. Right? These are the people that are held down by the corporations. These are the people that are directly impacted by gun violence, directly impacted by suppressing rights on women's reproductive rights, rather. So these are the people that need it the most, and it is them that has put the most pressure on and have to go through the most hoop for our fundamental right to vote. Something now that you can mail in, something now you can do online.
And that's where I was going to head with this. There's a couple of things that pop up. One, this is a voting tax. This is a poll tax, rather. It's plain and simple. It's a poll tax, one. So it's gone from counting the jelly beans or the marbles in a jar that those of you who know your history know what I'm talking about, as a rite of passage to be able to vote, one. Secondly, in terms of the mail piece of this, so renewing your passport, you can do that online. However, to have that then be tied to your voting registration, you got to go do that face to face. So there's one step that you can do essentially online, but it still doesn't go back for women to the name issue. And the other group that you probably, I know you studied this part of it in terms of the numbers, someone that is just getting out of high school, just turns 18, and they haven't registered to vote yet at all. And let's say that they never, their parents have their I'm just trying to blank. They have their birth certificate. They're 1,000 miles away in college, so they don't have their birth certificate to then register to vote in another state because they have to, because they're in another state. So that takes out a whole group of people there that are new voters. Am I right, or am I going off in the wrong direction here?
No. I mean, it's registration and re-registration, right? You're absolutely correct. So it's this whole new class of voters that we have coming in, people turning 18 years old that have to go through that process of registering to vote, and they also are suppressed here. Right? And that's just allowing that they can vote in the state where they go to school, right? The state rules are different everywhere.
Right.
But yeah, no, absolutely. That's a whole other class of folks that we are marginalizing here.
Well, I'm not sure if you are familiar with the producer and writer Greg Palast, and he's been talking about the voter suppression for a long time. He's done a couple of movies in that space, and we've had him on as a guest on our show. But the one thing that he points out is that voter suppression isn't just always the face-forward things that are being done or taking people off voter rolls. It's the things like this that are systemic, that are going to be part of law on a federal level, which is ironic because I thought voter registration and voting was a state. So this is where, as much as this administration is trying to say we want to keep, let me back up, that GOP voices have said we want to keep government out of your stuff. This is a sledgehammer of contradiction to keeping the federal government out of your stuff. So,
no, absolutely. I mean, it's federal bill.
Yeah, and that to me is an overreach into the states. And so our states, are you getting any, where I'm going with this is, are you getting any information, any data, any pushback from states that are saying that doesn't this contradict what our systems have been in terms of federal to state and state to federal?
Well, first, we're focusing really on just the federal component of it right now. We're looking at the bill at that level. I mean, Chip Roy introduced this thing in the 118th. He's introducing it again. It's got over 100 sponsors and co-sponsors. And so, the idea here is that these representatives think that this is right for their state, but what they're doing is placating Donald Trump here, right? That's really what we're seeing here. So everything we're trying to do is to, again, just safeguard our elections and end this suppression and this disenfranchisement of millions of voters. Right. So our attempt and our approach is to do it at the federal level, and that's really where we're focused right now, too.
Yeah, I got it. Well, listen, Brian, thanks for being with us, man. We're going to definitely have, this already, going to have you back, because this is another one of these ongoing issues that is major overreach by this current administration and not enough pushback from elected representatives. So we appreciate you being with us this morning, and we hope to have you back. How can folks find you? How can folks potentially get involved, or at least just send you an email saying, Brian, thanks for the work that you're doing?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Chew. WeDefendTheVote.org, right? That's the action. WeDefendTheVote.org. That is our website. You can find out what we're doing. You can see who we endorse. We can see what legislation we're focused on, and you can, learn a lot more about us there.
Absolutely. That's been great to hear from you and talk with you this morning. I know that you've got you're busy all the time fighting the good fight. So thank you for taking time to be with us. We'll have you back in the future, Brian. But in the meantime, stay safe and stay focused. We appreciate you.
All right, Drew. Thank you so much. Keep fighting.
All right, man. You too. Be well. There you go, guys. Brian is as my phrase goes, his sleeves rolled up, elbows deep in this fight in two very, very critical areas. Obviously, gun violence and working hard to have common sense legislation. And at the same time, the SAVE Act, this is a big deal. Defend the vote. Check him out. Get involved if you can. Find out what you can do. This is another way that we're just trying to provide you with access to people that can give you something to do to be part of this fight. All right, Henry, let's grab one quick call before we go to break. Let's go to George real quickly in Oak Park. George, let's take your call real fast before we go to our break.
Okay. All right. Richard, good morning. Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House. Here's a brief history of him. He has been the congressional representative of the 4th District in Louisiana since 2017, going on 9 years. Now, that congressional district has 751,000 constituents. 166,000 of those constituents, 22%, basically 1 in 5 people that he sees, are at poverty level existence. Now, that compares to the state of Louisiana, which is also fairly low in economic strength. But the state of Louisiana as a whole, it has a poverty level of 18%. And now that compares to the U.S. national average of a poverty level, which is at about, let's say, round up to 12%. So, so what is Johnson doing about it? Well, apparently not much. And the unintended consequence of this is that apparently it's easier for him, in the back of his mind, to lower the standard of living and to increase the level of poverty in this country with all those bullcrumb tax breaks to the rich than it is for him to try to bring his constituency poverty level up, to raise it instead of decreasing it. So he's trying to bring the whole country down as a result of this.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about this, George, and thank you so much for your contribution, and kind of breaking that down somewhat numerically, that's exactly right. Your last two sentences, what I want to zero in on, is really not to uplift the country and people who are least among us. So this guy who is so, wants to profess his Christianity and his Godisms and all that. It's about uplifting folks and taking things away from people that are the least among us. Is no way in hell that's about that. So, I mean, I'm basing this statement on his actions rather than what I know about him. His actions are not congruent with what he says he believes in. Because if they were, then he would be pushing back to say, no, this is going to harm people. It's not going to help people. Who it's going to help are not the least among us, which is supposed to be a tenet of what the faith is that he says he believes in. So that's how I see it, George, and thank you for your contribution this morning. All All right, guys, we got to hit this break. 773-763-9278. I know you guys are on hold. We'll get to you as best we can before we wrap up the show. When we come back, we will have our next guest, Elliot Richardson, who will be with us. 773-763-9278. We'll be right back.
Putting off that much-needed dental work, you know, that back molar that zings whenever you drink something cold, or that old loose crown that migrates up and down like a yo-yo every time you eat. This is Dr. Anna Pellick from Total Dentistry and Palatine, and procrastination keeps me very busy. A simple filling becomes a root canal, or that chipped tooth breaks again and now it becomes a bridge or an implant. Time is the enemy, and dental problems don't get better on their own. So if you procrastinate because of anxiety, we have solutions. If you procrastinate because of cost, we work with insurance plans and have easy payment options. And if you procrastinate because you're too busy, we have early 6 a.m. appointments, late evening, and Saturday appointments, and even one-day treatment. So now that I've eliminated most excuses for not seeing us, stop procrastinating and join the many who tell us, why did I ever wait so long? So give us a call at 847-358-2477 or visit us at totaldentistry.org. Total Dentistry, a general dental practice like no other.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley. Slight chance of rain showers today. Otherwise, cloudy skies expected. High temperatures reach up to 47. Winds out of the west, 10 to 20 miles per hour. Lows dip down to about 32 tonight. Partly cloudy skies. Daytime highs approaching 57 tomorrow. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times. A blend of clouds and sun Saturday with daytime highs approaching 31. 37 Sunday. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently 38.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
It's Choose View with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose View, 773-763-9278. So I'm getting your text and there's just too many to read. So I will just say in terms of the category, many of you who chimed in on the voter suppression parts of the SAVE Act, spot on. I appreciate your comments, and I'm just trying to go through them and make sure that I respond accordingly. But this is all about voter suppression, whether it be viewed as a poll tax, which it is, or just simple confusion, which, you know, when folks get confused and have to stand in the long line to get their passport or stand in the long line to get their, you know, anything, their driver's license, and now this new, what's it called? This new driver's, Real ID. Real ID. Thanks, Henry. All these things are, in my opinion, particularly now in this administration on a federal level, just another way to turn people off from the process. But we can't be turned off by it, guys. We have to stay in there. If we want to fight for this thing, we have to stay in it. We have to. And without that, we put ourselves in a situation where we yield. And I'm not one to yield unless I'm in traffic and it's an intersection and I need to let traffic get through. So you guys know where I'm coming from on that. All right, keeping things moving forward. We've had a really good run of people who are advocates and working to make sure that citizens in the state of Illinois, particularly, and more broadly in the country, have access. And I talked about this earlier in terms of businesses that have been started and gone on to do great things. They typically have had access to tools as a small business that then went on to become a bigger business. And with us this morning is a president and co-founder of the Small Business Advocacy Council, Elliot Richardson. Good morning, Elliot, and welcome to Choose Views.
Hey, Richard, thank you so much for having me.
You are welcome. How are you doing this morning? Doing well?
Yeah, doing well. It's getting warmer. I mean, I know it's not hot, but I will tell you, I'll take this any day of the week right now. So I'm excited about the upcoming warmth, Richard.
That anticipation. So you weren't that guy I saw riding yesterday down the street with shorts on and a ball cap and a sweatshirt. You weren't that guy.
That would probably be my kids. So
now, this was a grown man. It wasn't a kid.
It's amazing what we used to do when we were young. You know, that was me, like when I was young, and now I'm in 7 coats and, you know, shorts and sweatpants and as many layers as I can possibly get.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Elliot, thanks for taking some time to be with us. I know that our listeners are going to want to hear about what you're working on, and I know that you just recently had some responses to Governor Pritzker's recent address. And what I'd like you to do first, though, is just to chat a little bit about SBAC, how and why you founded or co-founded it, and what's some of the goals that you guys have now in this current environment that we're in.
Yeah, you know, thanks so much. SBAC was really founded out of a profound frustration about, you know, the lip service we hear about local and small businesses being the backbone of the economy, and they absolutely are the backbone of the economy. In Illinois, the latest data we have from the Small Business Administration is that 97% of businesses in our state have 20 or less employees. I mean, small businesses support local communities. Yet, you know, even when we founded the SBAC 14 years ago or so, what we saw consistently was small businesses being overlooked when it came to policies and rising healthcare costs, just being a gut punch to the small business community. You know, during the Great Recession, difficulty getting access to capital. All of these factors that make it so difficult for an entrepreneur or a local business to succeed, it really launched a group of us to start the SBAC, and it's a nonpartisan group, and it's amazing when you get a bunch of local business owners and their communities, their employees, when you get people together and they start talking, we're really all rowing the boat in the same direction. We started the SBAC to be a voice for the small business community.
And you said 14 years. So is that talk about the sort of the time frame and how you guys have grown and the impacts that you've had?
Yeah, you know, when we started, I mean, honestly, we were fresh. We didn't really know how to move legislation, and we learned. You know, we started talking to a lobbyist. We learned how to file a bill. We learned the political process and the pitfalls and how to try to navigate those pitfalls. And some of those pitfalls are definitely skewed not only against small businesses, but against folks without a ton of money and without, you know, an army of lobbyists. We learned how to navigate that, and we started to pass legislation. And one win became another win. We started doing work at the city of Chicago level. We've done federal work, and really, as we've grown and expanded, we brought more people in. We have a bigger footprint, and right now we're running, as they would say, probably 8 bills on the state level. We're doing a lot of work trying to improve the economic climate for small businesses in the city of Chicago, and you know, we're trying to figure out what's going on the federal level, but that's a whole nother story. So, you know, what we're doing really is galvanizing people, bringing folks together, working with local chambers across the state, in a lot of chambers and place-based organizations in the city to advance a legislative agenda and initiatives that will really help the solopreneurs and the small businesses. That's our focus.
Two of the people that have been done great work in their local communities that are elected officials are folks that are friends of our show, friends of our station, and friends of the work that's needed. And those names would be Allison Longenbaugh, who is city councilwoman out in Naperville, and Natalie Ziemba, city councilwoman up in Woodstock. What's one of the things that I know is in their DNA and critical to both of them is the importance of making sure that state representatives are focused on local issues and specifically local businesses. Natalie is a huge champion in that space, and Allison is as well. These are two names that you should know and people that I want to, off the air, get you connected with, because they are down with making sure that local businesses are getting the attention and getting the incentives and trying to narrow the gap, like you spoke about, between what big businesses, large corporations are getting and what smaller, more community-oriented businesses are not getting, as it were. So just that's a connection that I want to be able to make so that you guys are in line with each other and can do some sharing of ideas and legislation to that end. And so that leads me to a question. I just wanted to kind of put that out there, but it leads me back to
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Vice President Harris, and then again, I know that you're a nonpartisan organization, but one of the things that she was pushing for as part of her platform was to make sure that local businesses, and she said it numbers of times during the election, the campaign rather, that small businesses were needed to have the support of politicians across the board, on a federal level, on a state level, on a very local level. And that obviously didn't happen, and we're seeing that monies that would go to small businesses are being redirected. However, our governor here has kind of, been leaning in this direction. Talk a little bit about what you're seeing that Governor Pritzker is at least trying to do in that space.
So, Richard, you cut out for a second, but I know you were talking about Governor Pritzker. I'm not sure exactly what happened,
okay.
But that's okay. But you were talking about sort of what Governor Pritzker is trying to do in terms of supporting small businesses. Did I get that?
That you did.
Okay, perfect. Look, the governor passed, or not passed, I should say. The governor has been supportive of legislation that support the small business community. What we'd like to see policymakers do, Richard, is to really narrow that gap between the large incentives that go out to the largest businesses to sort of lure them into Illinois, or to keep them from moving to greener pastures when they threaten to do that. We want to see that gap closed, and some of those economic incentives also allocated to the small business community. And that's been a problem that's gone on since we started this organization. So, what you see is maybe in a given year, millions upon millions upon millions of dollars that go out to incentives to bring large companies into Illinois. However, the local businesses that have been here through thick and thin, we're calling on policymakers to say 50% of state economic incentives should go to businesses with 50 and under employees. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, we've got the program. So if people say, well, how can you spend that money? There was a wildly popular small business job creation tax credit that expired in 2016 that provided a small business, with 50 or less employees, a real small business, right? How at least I define a small business, with a $2,500 tax credit to hire a net new employee. So we're trying to have this economic discussion, right, about how to foster economic development in local communities across our state. And, we hope to engage Governor Pritzker in that discussion because, as I said, 97+% of businesses in our state have less than 20 employees. So we want to empower them and give them the tools to grow. And they also hire local. And those small businesses also support their local communities.
Well, and because they're a member of the local community, by and large, and it also there's some other factors that folks I don't think readily think about when it comes to small business, the mom and pop, that we've so labeled them as being, but the local business. Elliot, you and I start a business in a particular neighborhood in the Chicago metropolitan areas, as an example, and we, to your point, are going to hire folks that are local more than likely. Well, there's some other things that go along with that, and it's the footprint. That business that may eventually grow from, let's say, 20 people to 200 people, that's a great thing. But along the way, the footprint to our environment is less impactful in a negative way. And just the whole commuting piece, folks that are working for a local business that are supported properly by local officials, that business has less of a footprint on our environment. Just the commuting part for people who don't have to drive 40 miles to get to this big, behemoth of a business out in the suburban area, blah, blah, blah. We know the story, but can go to a business right locally that does a lot of the same thing. I think that's a oftentimes missed part of the conversation and the negotiation in this space.
Well, you're 100% right. And if you've done commuting around the city of Chicago over the past couple of years, I think before I came on, you were talking about the only thing that slows you down is traffic. And congestion, I mean, you've been really slow if you try to navigate long distances. You're 100% right. Everybody loves the thought of those mom and pops, right, on a business district, the ice cream store, the office building, the small one that might have a store on the ground floor and then a couple offices up top, and people get together for lunch. In the small business community, that's why we call it a community. You got to support local businesses because they're the folks that are on those commercial corridors, that hire their family members, that hire their friends, that hire, the kids and the people that they know. And that's why it's so important to have a balanced economic approach to economic development. Because if you're just focused on only the large companies, and surely there is value to bringing large companies into the state of Illinois and creating jobs in that way, but there's also tremendous value in supporting the small business community. And it's tough for small businesses to have a voice. And that's why we're there, because we're all super busy. I mean, if you're running a small business, Richard, you really don't have time to go down to Springfield for 3 days or fly to D.C. and lobby your legislators. So we've got to get ourselves in that conversation and make ourselves priorities.
What do you think will be, going back to something you said a moment ago, and I hope I position this right with you, the tax credit, what do you think it will take to get that reinstated?
So that's a great question. We're going to need really a lot of political will. We're going to need people to come out and tell their legislators this is important. See, what we're doing, our approach, Richard, this session is we already know, if you've been following Illinois politics and the government, that there's going to be a fiscal belt-tightening situation in Springfield. I probably didn't say that articulately, but, there's a concern about spending money. So instead of going and asking for new money for, say, a tax credit or an incentive program that would be focused on small businesses, we're saying let's take this tremendous disparity in incentives that go to large companies and at least allocate some of them for small businesses, right? But to do that, folks are going to have to hear from small business owners and their employees and their vendors and the whole group of folks who are supported by small businesses telling their legislators, right, their folks, it's really important to co-sponsor these bills and to support these bills. And then, the rest of our legislative agenda as well, whether it's helping folks who want to start a business who have lost their jobs, do that, whether it's occupational licensing reform, the more legislators hear from their constituents, the better chance there is that things like the small business job creation tax credit or the other things we're working to do will actually come to fruition during the legislative session.
That is a lot of work that needs to be done. And I wanted to ask that question. I made a note to say, just to ask you, what is it going to take? That's a heavy lift. And it's going to take support of your organization and the work that you're doing, because at the end of the day, we all know the data's there, but some of this is common sense as well, Elliot, that when small businesses are thriving in multiple communities, then multiple communities are able to thrive and provide more opportunities for people. And that's what you guys are trying to do. So we will have you back because your work is ongoing, and we need to know what you're working on and what some of the success stories are and what the struggles are, so that we can try to get folks to lean into your advocacy. Go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, and you providing this sort of forum, Richard, is so important because being able to reach people and let them know what they're doing in their extremely busy lives, that is just tremendously beneficial to trying to move forward good public policy.
Absolutely. And the thing that I'll say to you is we got you. We're going to do what we can to support your work and your effort. Let folks know before we cut out how they can reach you, how they can follow you, and just, dig in to see what they might. What before you answer this, Elliot, let me tell you why I always do this, and so you understand. We hear the conversation. We'll circle back to the beginning of the interview, where we talked about people wanting to do more things locally, and local is important. One of the things that I'm taking on and believe in is that as we talk about local issues, everything that's local is regional, is statewide, is national. And so when I hear people say, Richard, I want to get involved, I want something to do, I don't want to just sit in my silo, your organization is another one of the, quote, local organizations that I'd like to get people plugged into so they can be a part of what you're doing and they can, quote unquote, have something to do to affect change. So share with us and our listeners how people can get involved.
Absolutely. They can go to SBACIL.org. They can email us. We've got a policy committee. We're going to go to Springfield. We're working on issues like health insurance, making drug prices more affordable. We got a whole laundry list. And I say that because if you've got a particular interest in something that you think needs to change, that will help you and your business thrive and grow, we want to hear from you, and then we will plug you right in.
That's fantastic. Elliot, thanks for being with us this morning. I really appreciate you taking out the time. We will circle back and get with you again in the weeks to come because we definitely want to hear, again, the challenges so we can find you some help and the successes so that we can give you your flowers for the work that you're doing.
Well, Richard, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Elliot Richardson, the president and co-founder of the Small Business Advocacy Council. Get with them, guys. Give them some support. Thanks, Elliot, for being with us, and go out and get on that bike with those shorts and that sweatshirt on.
You got it.
All right, man. Be well. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Hey, guys, he's doing the work. And, the import to me is that they recognize that there are some tools, Henry, that are right there in front of us to help support local organizations. And the governor, like I said at the beginning of the show, I want Mayor Johnson, I want all of our elected officials that are progressive in their work to succeed. They aren't going to get it right all the time. And then that includes Lieutenant Stratton and Governor Pritzker. They're not going to get it right all the time, but we have to push them to get it right the majority of the time and to provide the legislation and support for people who need it. And our small businesses and our small communities, or I should say the activities in our smaller communities needs to be a part of this. Small businesses, whether they be rural, suburban, or urban, all need this kind of support. So get with Elliot Richardson, Google his name, Google the SBAC, and see what you can do to be involved. We won't take a break. Well, let's take a tiny break. Should we do that, Henry, or should we keep going? Let's keep going. All right. See, this is why you turn to you guys and you say, what should we do? Because they get this as well. Let's grab a quick call as we wrap up. Let's go to, is it Ados? Good morning. Welcome to the show. This is Choose Views. How are you?
Hey, this is Richard Chew from the family meeting.
Yeah,
the bad dude.
That's what they tell me I am. You mean the black Asian dude?
Yeah,
that's me. Yes.
Okay. You downtown now, huh?
Well, we are in the studio. Where the studio is in the city of Chicago. Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
No, when I mean downtown, I mean metaphorically downtown. I mean that you down there with the big folks. So we can't act like your cousins can't be your cousins no more.
No,
now you on the weekday.
That hasn't changed, but nothing. Here's the thing: nothing's changed. I'm just done at a different time. But that's still all the. You probably didn't catch this earlier in the show today. Maybe you did.
I don't want you to be Richard. I don't want you to be get up and being all bliggity black.
Oh God!
We get in trouble now.
No, listen. I would tell you that all of our listeners on all of our shows throughout every bit of programming, including Joan's show. Joan said to a group of people over the weekend that sometimes she is just not nice enough to people. So we all bring a little bit of attitude to our broadcast. Patty does it. I do it. Joan does it. Edwin, we all do it. And certainly on the family meeting, it's just a slightly different flavor because it's Sunday afternoon. We get what you have to say. So what's going on this morning? You said something about small things that people can do if they're feeling helpless. What's your take there?
Yep. So exactly. This is my point. You mentioned it earlier. We become so spoiled. I was in the store, Richard.
Yeah.
And I watched what happened when people decided not to use the self-checkouts.
Oh.
And
tell us about that.
In the cashier line, right? I don't know I don't know if that was a strategy for protest.
Yeah.
You hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So whoever thought that one up was brilliant because did not. Now, the manager kept saying, the self-checkout line is open. The self-checkout line is open. And then the people, those old people would not use it. And so I'm going, oh, brilliant. Now, if they're going to save $25,000 in labor for those 4 cashiers that's not working, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if the company's going to make $100,000 but not hiring those 4 cashiers, are they going to pass that profit on to us?
You mean by lowering prices or increasing the wages of the people who still are working there? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
What happens to the money that they save from the automation? This is what I'm getting at.
Yep. Big machines to make things.
It's never passed on.
That is such. Listen, man, I got to give you your high five on this one. I've been yelling about that for a long time. I'm going back to the 80s when we heard this talk about how technology was going to make things simpler for everybody and the workday was going to shorten and all these things to get the federal government to put more money toward developing technology. But we're an area where we fail when it comes to technology? Rail.
What is that?
Our national rail system.
Uh-huh.
Our national rail system is appalling by comparison to economies that are smaller than ours. But yet we preach about how great we are when it comes to saving money and changing the way that we direct our companies. And your checkout line example is a brilliant one. Because I went to a store the other day and I walked in and they used to have a self-checkout. It's gone. Mm-hmm. It's gone now. And we killed those jobs. But what happened was they now have regular checkout. So they took away. Check this out. They took first they had the automated checkout or whatever, self-checkout, and they had so many issues with it. They've completely gotten rid of it. And now that same space is now dedicated to what? Checkout with a human being that's going to greet you. And so I was like, that's how it should be. They put those people back to work. But I don't know if I don't know if I have an answer.
That was one of my other ones, Rich.
What's that?
You said public transportation. That was another one.
Yeah.
Can I hit you with my last one?
Absolutely. Well, let me first give you. Let me first give you. No. I just want to say thank you for your contribution in that space about where the money's going to go. I didn't want to just run right over that. Where does that money go? Okay. Great question, and that's something that we should talk about in the future. But you said you had one more thing you wanted to share with us.
Okay. Writing checks and using stamps. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Go back to doing that. Even half of your bills. They keep telling me, would you please go online? No. I send all of my ComEd bills and all my gas bills, and because I want to overwork the postman because I need him working. Do y'all get it? You keep talking about networking. I don't think we understand that. You're hurting your own selves.
Man.
Because you want some convenience. Knock it off with that foolishness. You feel me on that one?
Oh, boy.
I ain't trying to get you in no trouble, man.
No, listen.
Because we can bring this 616th Street.
Listen.
Where Eric and Matt.
I will tell you the thing that's got a big smile on both my face and Henry's is the fact that it's just so plain sometimes. And we do get so caught up in making something bigger than it. It's just so basic and plain. And as
you got it. Rosa Parks broken down with something damn simple. We ain't taking your bus.
Yeah.
Broken down, brother.
That's why tomorrow, even though some people are kind of like, laughing at it. That's what tomorrow's blackout, whether one agrees with it fully or not, it's a step that says, I'm going to take some of my power back. And making it simple, keeping it plain, keeping it simple. I'm sorry, is what we're trying to talk about here. Listen, man, it's good to hear your voice, and I'm
glad you're downtown, man.
Hey, well,
I'm glad you're downtown.
I'm doing the best I can. What's that? Can we come look in the window? They tell me that you can. Just don't get any.
Don't tell them that you don't know us either.
Don't put any fingerprints on the. If you put any fingerprints on the window, you're gonna get me in trouble telling them you're my cousin and all that. But don't put the fingerprints on the window, man. It's great. It's great to hear your voice. Thank you for your call and your contribution.
Keep up the great work, brother.
I promise you I will. Thanks for the support. All right, be well. Oh, my goodness. All right, guys, it's that time of the day where we wrap up the show. What a great number of guests that we had with us this morning. Brian Lemek and Elliot Richardson, and you guys, our great callers and supporters and wonderful text messages. But as always, take a deep breath and make your life count. We will see you tomorrow.
Huge news. Right now at Wendy's, you can get a Son of Baconator for just $3. I don't think you understand this situation. The Son of Baconator is only $3 for a limited time. You know, smoked bacon, rich melted cheese. That Son of Baconator is only $3. Thank you to whoever wished upon that star. For bacon that just won't quit, gotta be Wendy's.
U.S. price and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Alaska and Hawaii, not valid on a combo or on third-party delivery platforms.
All this year, WCPT is celebrating our 20th anniversary.
The station launched the Progressive Talk format on May 3rd, 2005 as an affiliate of the Air America Network.
And soon began airing nationally broadcast radio programs hosted by Tom Hartman,
Stephanie Miller, Randy Rhodes, Ed Schultz, Rachel Maddow,
Al Franken, Janine Garofalo, Mark Maron,
and even Jerry Springer.
Beginning in 2008, WCPT produced programs hosted by Chicago media fixtures like Dick Hay, and soon after launched the station's